You are listening to Inspired Caring with Michelle Magner, episode number 138. Hello, welcome to Inspired Caring. I'm your host, Michelle Magner. If you are caring for an older family member, this is the podcast for you. Each week, I bring insight, tips, inspiration, and strategies to help you care for the people that you love without losing yourself along the way. Having cared for both of my grandmothers, I've helped manage everything from hospital stays, households full of belongings, to navigating senior living and end-of-life care. And I've worked in senior living as a result of that experience, serving my residents and their families as they've been on this journey too. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope you enjoy this episode of Inspired Caring. Well, welcome, Lisa. I'm so excited to have you join us today.
Hi, I'm glad to be here. I'm so excited.
Yeah. Your company is called Hope Organizing, and you provide multiple services to people. And so I'm just excited to learn more about it and how you can help people who are on this caregiving journey, like what your mission is.
Well, so Hope Organizing actually started as a home organizing business. And now, like 12 years ago, I learned about an organization that was called the Association of Personal Photo Organizers at the time. And I was like, that's really intriguing because I really like photos and obviously I like organizing.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I began to that was like my niche, was to help people with photos. And then almost 5 years ago, I said, that's all I want to do, is help people organize, preserve, share, and celebrate their memories. And so I help, and that can be numerous ways, whether it usually has something to do with photos. And that's so I should say Hope now stands for Helping Organize Photos Everywhere.
Oh my gosh, I love it. An acronym.
I love an acronym. And so that could be, you have tubs of printed photos that are tucked away in a closet, or they're in albums on the shelf, but they're the old kind that are sticky and they're turning yellow and deteriorating your photos, and getting those photos out so that they're into your life and scanned, and so that they can be digital. Or people that are like, I have too many photos on my phone, and then I think I have them on my computer, and I think they're on an old computer, and I think they're on CDs, and they're on a flash drive, and I don't know where they are.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Or they're on multiple online websites. So I try to help bring that all into one place. But the Celebrate is the really fun part, where I help people make books or slideshows or photo gifts. So it's really just about helping people celebrate their memories.
I love that. And I'm thinking when we have boxes and boxes of pictures or albums full of pictures, you do start to kind of lose track of those memories. I forget what I have done and who I was with, and just even looking at a picture can trigger a really funny story about that time. So I'm imagining when you're going through the pictures with people that a lot of stuff is coming up for them.
Yes. And so in one way, so I usually work with people 3 ways. One might be they just want a little help, a push getting started. So I work with them for 2 to 4 hours, figuring out how they're going to do it. Then some people want to go through the process with me. So we meet, we go through the photos, and that's when I haven't really done much of that since before the pandemic. And it was just a natural I still would do it if someone wanted to. It just hasn't really happened yet. But most of the time people just say, just take it all.
Oh my
And then
gosh, okay.
I sit and I find out who key people are in the family. Like we find, pictures of them when they're a baby, a little bit older, progressive, so that I can figure out, okay, this is Michelle, and this is, their siblings and their parents through the years. And it's because when I'm going through them, I'm looking for the clues specifically. Oh, that car is from the 70s, so this is or whatever, versus
Yes.
having the memory. And then they can kind of, then when they get this organized collection,
Yeah.
they can have the memory without thinking the stress of it. But it's been interesting so I just turned 50 a few days ago, and leading up to my 50th birthday, I was sharing 10 photos a day from each year of my life.
Oh my gosh,
So
what a cool idea.
over the last 2 months, I've shared 500 photos really of my life.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And this experience wasn't quite the same as a few years ago when I did something for my parents' 50th wedding anniversary. And so doing it for yourself is different than someone else that's just an observer, because I'm sitting there going, there had to be more photos from 1988, or there had to be more photos from this trip to Texas. Where are those photos? Now I understand they're probably in my mom's house somewhere that I just haven't come across yet. But because it's easier to do it for someone else, because I don't have that memory of going, I think there should be more here. But
Right. You're not doing the time travel that someone is doing when they're trying to do it for themselves.
right.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing. When I'm telling people how to do it, I'm like, one tip I give to people is, if you're sorting physical photos that are just a mess, there's no rhyme or reason, someone's just been throwing pictures in a box, is you don't even look at the photos. You turn them upside down and you organize them by size. Because really, we didn't use 4x6s, which is what is pretty much been the standard for 30 years now.
Yeah.
Until the early 90s. You might seen some of them in the 80s. But there was a lot of different photos. And it can be really surprising if you just start making stacks of photos upside down based on size, or rounded corners, or scalloped corners, and then you turn them over, and then sometimes the printing on the back too. Like if you have a bunch of 4x6s, you might have, I don't know, 6 to 12 different stamps on the back, Kodak, Fuji, whatever. But you turn over these piles and all of a sudden, oh, these are all grouped together and these are all grouped together. And so that's how I usually like to start with those kind of things, because especially if you're working with someone, because then you don't get tied up in the memories and get stuck from moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's what got us in the situation in the first place, to have 50,000 digital pictures that have accumulated since 2015.
Yeah.
Like me. Yeah. Or have had just albums and albums that were moving around and collecting dust.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is such a great tip for physical pictures. Do you have like a high level tip if we're talking about digital clutter?
Well, it depends if it's specifically if it's your phone. One thing I do, and this Apple or Android works, is there'll be an album that says screenshots. And I always say, go there first.
Okay.
And that's a pretty easy place. A lot of times, if you took a screenshot over a month ago, maybe even, and you haven't done any acted on it, then maybe you do need to keep it. And then maybe you make a note somewhere, whether that's a physical note, you keep a notebook or a planner or something, or you save it to the notes app on your phone, and get it out of your photos.
Yeah.
That's like the first easy one. For iPhone, because that's what I have, so I haven't found the exact replicate of it, and I'm hoping eventually they'll have the app for Android, but they don't yet. And I've asked them several times because it's an app called Ollie.
Okay.
And it kind of lets you so it groups similar photos together, and so that it has AI that says, based on what you've liked in the past, I think you'll like this one and you'll want to trash this one.
Okay.
And it kind of makes it a little game, and it, like, when you finish a batch, it gives you confetti. And
so it helps you sift through all, because I feel like I'm still doing that when I take a picture, I hit the button 3 times, boop, 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 right? But then
yes.
I'd never go back to pick the best one. And sometimes the best one of me is not necessarily going to be the best one of someone else. So if yeah, it's hard to
And a
know.
lot of times people will say, well, I'll keep them both and I'm going to merge them together or do something. Well, if you don't ever do that, then it's never going to happen.
It's never going to happen. I'm not that ambitious.
So some of the new phones you see the ads for that they think you can do that. Just, I think it's the Google Pixel or something, where
Okay.
you can like touch the face and change the open the closed eyes, but with another picture and stuff. So
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah. I've seen the commercials for that.
but that's
So
not something
how long does
I
the process
actually
take? Oh, I'm sorry.
oh, I was just gonna say, as far as what I look in, I actually tell the memory keeper, typically a mom. I do have
Mhm.
some clients that are male, but typically the memory keeper is the mom taking the
Mhm.
pictures, and she's not as in many pictures. So unless if it's your child's birthday and their eyes are closed, then no. But I say, keep the one where you look the best.
Mhm. That's fair.
Because you're probably in fewer pictures in general.
Right.
And if you're the one doing it, then put yourself first in this position.
Right. If they're your memories that you are working to preserve, then have it be the one where you feel like you looked your best.
Yeah.
That really makes sense. How long does the process take? Like, how many pictures are we talking about that people are handing over to you?
You know, it was said at one of my conferences one year, once you've seen one customer, you've seen that customer or that client. Every project is so different. I mean, someone brings me one box of photos, which just an interesting little hint, a photo box, shoebox size kind of, is
Mhm.
approximately 1,000 photos.
Oh my gosh.
So
Okay.
yeah. Let's say someone brings me a box of photos that are somewhat organized and they just want them scanned. I may be able to do that in 3 hours, 4 hours, 3 to 4 hours. It kind of depends. Especially if they're all like the same size and they're all in good condition. But someone else could bring me that box, and it could be, I need to organize it. I need to put some kind of, there's some that are ripped and it might take twice as long.
Mm.
Um, I once had a client that had 5 kids, and she's like, well, I think they're pretty like, and she gave me like hanging file boxes with each kid's name on it. And a lot. I mean, I brought a lot of stuff. She was from central Nebraska, and my car was piled to the, and I opened up the first bin, and the first 2 hanging folders were the child whose name it said. And then the next one was not, that child was not even in the next folder.
Oh my goodness.
And so that's, I'm like, I can't judge a box by its cover, or book by its
Right?
cover, or box by its cover.
By the lid.
By the lid. Also right now I'm actually working on projects for 2 friends. One project who both have, one has 3 kids, one has 2 kids, similar ages. One just was very organized, and they were in chronological books, the ones that need to be scanned. The other ones, they were kind of sorted by kid, sort of, I mean, just completely different projects, even though, on paper they're very similar families. But so it's the time it takes, it's just varies so different by each project.
Sure. Well, it sounds like you're able to help digitize, you're able to help consolidate, to organize, consolidate, make some cohesive memory out of just a pile, hodgepodge of things.
Yes.
Um, and then, so did you say you put together like photo slideshows?
Yes.
Cool.
For birthdays, anniversaries, funerals. Actually, last December I was hired by a woman who was 89 years old, and her husband was 91, I think, to do their memorial slideshows. And I kept saying,
Mm.
but what? And the music I put to it was too fast. And I'm like, well, we're celebrating your life. And I go, wouldn't you want to like to share this at your 90th birthday? Or like, yes,
Yeah.
it can. There's multiple purposes for this. And it ended up a few weeks before her 90th birthday. She's like, okay, I'm having a party. Let's do it. But then we started to dig in, and I'm like, we don't have many pictures from before like 1985.
Mm.
And so started to dig in and uncover. I thought I'd seen all her photos, and then we went and found more, and then we found more.
Oh my gosh.
But she had a lovely, and interesting enough, she's in Florida for the winter, so we haven't worked on anything lately. But during the process, I got to meet her daughter, who lives locally, and she's like, but Mom, I don't want all of this.
Oh
And
boy.
so I think this is especially for your audience, that if you're these memories and these photos and stuff, it's important to you, and you want to share that, and you want that to carry on. And sometimes it's not the next generation that does want it, but maybe the next generation or the next generation. So I always try to say, when you're doing it, and there's so many different things we can do, but you want to think about it, what you're leaving for generations 100 years from now. Because
Right. Yeah.
I know what I like. There's a few pictures of my grandparents before I knew them.
Mm-hmm.
But those pictures are very precious, and there's some that I really wish I would have found out the story behind. And so that's what I'm really encouraging clients, more so than ever, to really pick out some photos that are important and share those stories, and not just the photo.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much because it's people's legacy.
Yeah, exactly. It's the legacy, and it's um you do. I mean, when someone's gone, there's probably always going to be left with questions, but um wouldn't it be great to for your kids? Now, I'm an older mom, so I have an 8-year-old. He enjoys looking at photos, but he's not quite to the age that he's like, oh, that's fun to see a photo of when my mom was my age or something.
Right.
He's still very much into the photos of him for the most part.
Right. I think it was my
But
dad who said it's 40 years old is when men become interested in their heritage. So to have all of that, consolidated and organized and ready to go, then at the point that he's interested, it'll just be right there.
yeah.
Yeah.
For my parents' 40th wedding anniversary, I made a slideshow, but then I took all those photos too, and I had a few of my digital frames set up at their anniversary party. And mind you, because the book that I made special and had it rush ordered for their party didn't arrive until 2 days later.
Oh
But
no.
I will say that my mom kept saying, Dad won't put that book down. He keeps looking at it. And um, I still just left those photos on one of my frames. And I've seen when my dad's at my house, just he'll just sit and watch the frame for quite some time.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I'm thinking my mom for Mother's Day, my sister and I gave her a digital photo frame. So that's such a great point that once, someone has brought you into the fold and you've helped them get things organized and narrowed down and digitized, it can really add to their daily life now through that digital frame. And I know a lot of people when they move to senior living, they really love those frames because it's definitely just that connection with their family and their memories.
yeah. And they can have those old photos around, and they can have the current photos around, and it's not taking up a lot of space.
Right.
And so many of them. So I will say my favorite is Nick's Play, and I've had the experience recently of working with 2 clients that were gifted different albums, and I still or different photo frames. I love Nick's Play because
That's
of
the one
the
we got
ease
our
of use.
mom.
But I just lost my train of thought.
Oh, so the digital photo albums and not taking up so much space and Nick's
Is that so many of the frames now you can email the photos. So
yes.
if it's grandma and she's got 20 grandkids, all of those grandkids can have that email address, and they can just email it to grandma, and it'll pop up that such and such just sent you a photo.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. My mother actually, after Christmas, I think it was, texted my sister and I and said, don't forget to send pictures to our frames. I thought that's that was so kind of her to nudge us. I need to set like a reminder every other week or something,
Yeah.
or once a month even, to just push up a new batch of pictures.
And that's, actually something that I recommend is because we take so many photos. Like as an experiment, I back up my photos to multiple places on my phone, and one, I back up everyone to, and I don't touch it. It's just kind of my safety backup. Plus, I look to see. I had, I think I'd have to look at the exact number, over 17,000 photos in 2023.
My gosh, you win.
That's all the screenshots. That's all is this the right paper towels that we need? Whatever,
Yes,
it's,
yes,
we
random.
take so many photos now, but I highly recommend everyone, depending on how many photos they take, it could be monthly, it could be quarterly, to sit down and have a set system for what you're going to do with your photos every month. And one of those would be great to say, okay, it's time to share with grandma, or
Right. Yeah. That's really smart to do it monthly because I'm so overwhelmed. I have in my iCloud account, now it doesn't feel so many, so thanks for making me feel better, but I've got like 55,000 pictures. Not exaggerating. However, my kids were tied to my Apple iCloud account when they were younger. And so their phones were backing up pictures into that main folder. And so I'll have like 22 pictures of one of their friends sitting in the hallway at school. Yeah.
so
So I
yeah,
feel
you can
so in
definitely
over
go
my
in
head.
and delete. If you have 20 pictures, you can delete 19 of them at least. And
Yes. Or all of them. I don't even know if they're friends with those people anymore.
well, see, then it
Yeah.
doesn't even.
Yeah.
And
So,
another fun tip on that
yeah.
is if you go into your phone, so the app I was talking about does this automatically, but you can just go into your phone and type in January 16th, just January 16th, not the year, and it'll pull up all the pictures that you took on January 16th of every year. And so that's another way if you wanted to do it over every day for the course of a year, you would just have a few photos to go through, and it would take you back to a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Oh my gosh, that is brilliant. So you're not trying to muddle through all of them. You're just picking one day and it's pulling everything forward for you to take a look at from
Exactly.
that day. That's
Yeah.
great. Well, for someone who is thinking, okay, I'm interested, you have my attention. I have 100,000 pictures and I desperately need Lisa. How would they find you?
So my website is hopeorganizing.com,
Okay.
and I offer a 20-minute free consult. Um, if it's just like, what app do you think's best for me? Whatever, to asking questions on how we can work together or anything like that. And then try to find me on social media. It's Hope Organizing, Facebook, Instagram,
Awesome.
LinkedIn,
And
all of that.
I can put links to all of that in the bio or in the show notes, the things in a podcast in the show notes so people can quickly navigate to them. So any final thoughts for listeners on what they should be thinking about in terms of organizing their memories?
So, two things. One thing that I believe very strongly in is that everyone should have a memories hub, and it should be on a computer or an external hard drive.
Okay.
Not solely in the cloud. And I have a blog that I wrote down all the reasons why, but mostly it's because you want to have access offline. You never know. And you
Right.
want to be able to access it online. Also, if it's on a computer external hard drive, there's multiple ways to back it up. Whereas it's hard to back up. You can't really back up Google to Apple or
Right.
Apple to Google, or you know what I'm saying? Like and understanding what is syncing and what it's backing up. Like for example, iCloud is not a backup, it's a syncing service.
Mm.
And that's what Apple will say. But there's duplicate finders that work much better on your computer than on your phone. The other thing is is once you've scanned photos, like I can go to my computer and I can find photos in my own photo library that were taken a few days ago back to, we'll say the 1940s, because I haven't got all of my grandparents done yet. But I have pictures back to when my parents were young in my photo library, and they're all in there by decade all together. So if you say, Lisa, can you find me a photo from 1993? I go to my photo hub. I don't have to scroll through. Oh, I've got those in this online account, and those are on this external hard drive, and it's just that they're all in one place. And my last word of advice is to figure out a way to save the stories, because that's going to mean, as we talked about legacy, I regret when, as I got older, my grandmother started to tell me stories. We spent more one-on-one time when I was older because I was the nearest grandchild living with her, and I heard stories I'd never heard before, and I never thought to figure out a way to record them. And it doesn't always mean you need the video, but you can do a Zoom call,
Right.
and just show them a picture and save the recording. If older relatives are I know my parents, my in-laws, who are in their 60s, 70s, have gotten pretty good at doing a Zoom call. And it's a way to record it it doesn't feel like they're sitting in front of a camera being recorded. They're just having a conversation with their kids. And so that's a way to record it, or just to have them write it out on a piece of paper or whatever. But there's so many ways. Also, if it's not long, you can put that in the caption of a digital photo.
Oh,
And if it's
interesting.
done in the right software, it's going to travel with that photo no matter where it goes. I won't get into the whole metadata and that. But there's even apps where you can open up voice record and it goes into the caption of the photo.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
So that's
And
another way to.
what's coming to mind is that program Storyworth. Are you familiar with that?
I am. I have never done it, but I'm familiar with it. Yeah.
I bought it for both of my parents, and really it started as just an email question that comes once a week for 52 weeks of the year. And then they're just typing a response to the question. And then at the end of the year, Storyworth binds it into a book and ships you an actual physical book. And when I was online, no, it was my mother. She was online poking around when I bought it for her. And what she found out was really adding pictures to the stories is what brings so much value. So it's this marriage of the pictures and the story together. And so she is now a published author through Storyworth. She completed her first volume of the early years. But the first things first is you need to have access to those pictures. You need them on your computer. So Lisa needs to help you get those things scanned in.
And what other thing on the story is actually in the offline thing, a few years ago there had been a storm, and we luckily didn't lose power, but we went 3 days without internet, and we're not only streaming household, so we couldn't really watch TV or anything. And my parents happened to be here, and I had just gotten some photos from my aunt, and I said, hey Dad, let's just sit down and look at these photos. And one was a picture of his older brother's confirmation. And I won't go into the whole story, but it totally took him seeing that picture, went on to a whole story about the pastor, and then after the pastor left and visiting the church, I had no idea it would go. And it was such an interesting story of something that happened in my dad's life.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
So that's another, like, you don't judge the photo for like, someone that lived through it might have a totally different think of a totally different story than what you're just looking at it.
Right. Like what you think you're seeing.
Yes.
Yeah. I think also right now we're in this era of um, capturing a moment, not to capture the moment, but to curate an image. And I think there's a lot of value of sitting down with people that made an intentional choice to capture a moment through a photograph back in
Yeah.
the day. Versus now we're like, well, this is going to look really good. And I'm a little guilty of this myself. Like,
Oh yeah.
oh, actually, this would look really good if we could do this, this, and this to it versus just a very organic, yeah,
Yeah.
experience. Yeah. Interesting. Well, thank you so much for being
Yeah.
here. I'm really grateful.
Glad to be here. I'm glad to just chat.
Yes.
I love
Yeah.
talking about people's memories, so
It's your favorite subject.
it is.
Well, I will put connective links in the show notes for people so that you can reach out to Lisa and she can help you get your memories organized too. Thanks so
Thank you.
much. What I know for sure is that things are going fine until they're not. Everyone wants to stay in their home for as long as possible. And then there's a fall or a hospital stay or clear signs of dementia or a diagnosis, and remaining at home becomes questionable or potentially impossible. It is super important that you are informed about what assisted living and nursing home care can offer and understand how to choose the one that will best fit the needs of your family. I know from personal and professional experience what objections are going to come up and how to navigate those conversations. You love your family member and you are doing a great job. It just feels like the situation is fragile. You're waiting for the other shoe to drop and you don't know what you don't know. Illuminating Senior Living answers all of your questions and walks you through step by step each common objection and frequently asked question. This course will save you so much time and heartache. Imagine knowing exactly when it's time to move and ensuring the care and safety of your family member. Imagine knowing what specifically to be looking for in a care community and how to have the conversations about moving. Illuminating Senior Living gives you the roadmap so you're prepared. Click the link in the show notes, Illuminating Senior Living, to secure your video course today.